Hi, hello, good evening, dear students. How are you? I hope you are all doing well. Today, I would like to start the next lecture on my solutions topic. That's what I have discussed in the previous session. And in this session, I would like to take the most important concept related to the determination of the colligative properties like osmotic pressure, depression, elevation in boiling point, and depression in freezing point. Okay, in that case, first I would like to explain you regarding the determination of osmotic pressure using Berkeley-Hartley method. The next I will tell you about the determination of the boiling point elevation using Beckman thermometer in a Ledenberg experiment. Okay, first two experiments first I will teach you, then after we will go to the next level. Okay, let us start the concept. I will show you the complete diagram with the description. I will explain that. Okay, yeah, dear students, this is the concept on the measurement of osmotic pressure. The measurement of osmotic pressure. Okay, and in this I would like to give you the complete details about the Berkeley-Hartley method. Okay, that is, see the picture here, this is the measurement of osmotic pressure diagram I am showing you. In this picture, this is one apparatus diagram that belongs to this measurement of osmotic pressure by Berkeley-Hartley method. Actually, this method is said to be the best method for the measurement of osmotic pressure. And in this method, actually the sufficient pressure on the solution if you apply, definitely we can find the osmotic pressure using this apparatus. And that's why this method is said to be based on applying the sufficient pressure on the solution side in order to check the osmosis. So here in this picture, applied pressure over the solution, and the one, there are two sides, we have left side, right side, some levels of the solutions are shown here, and it consists of a porous pot. So we are telling this is the porous pot picture, and both ends here are there for this one. This pot has a copper ferrocyanide membrane fused in its walls. That means this is the porous pot we are showing here, and this both the ends of this one, you can say this is fixed with copper ferrocyanide. Yeah, we know that is also an artificial semi-permeable membrane discussed, that is CuFeCN 6 times. This is, and also it is sealed in the outer side with the bronze cylinder fitted with the solution under examination. That means here this is the bronze outside, we have a bronze cylinder is there, so it's like a cylindrical one. And in the picture we are only showing this like this because it's not a three-dimensional picture, and it is filled with solution. So this is what we can say, that outer cylinder, bronze cylinder is fitted with solution under examination. So inside this porous pot we have water is there, and water and solution now both are separated by the semi-permeable membrane copper ferrocyanide. And here we can understand one thing from this experiment, that is the bronze cylinder is fitted with a piston on which weights can be placed to exact pressure on the solution. So this is the piston. You are observing. This is the piston here. This is the piston here. This is the picture. And the piston, when we have applied, then what will happen? Definitely there will be some force will be applied on the solution, and water tends to pass through the porous part towards the solution. So what will happen? What is the function of this one is water is there, solvent moving into the solution. Automatically, when we employ this pressure using piston, definitely what will happen, sir, to bring about the level of the this entire porous parts in the both ends a similar position in the original position, how much external pressure we employed on this solution side when the water starts moving into the solution via semi-pure membrane according to osmosis, that will be noticed as osmotic pressure. So what is osmotic pressure here? Osmotic pressure is nothing but when we apply pressure on the solution side using this piston, then obviously what will happen? This kind of osmotic pressure can be noticed. Now, what will happen? The pressure is applied on the with the help of piston so that the water level in tube becomes stationary. So you know, water level in the piston, once it becomes stationary, definitely we can understand that there is osmotic pressure is applied. So the external pressure which is applied on the piston equal to that osmotic pressure. That is what we will call it as osmotic pressure. So what is osmotic pressure? The osmotic pressure is the pressure which is applied on the solution that can be calculated. Now, you see some experimental results here. Osmotic pressure up to 150 atmospheres has been measured accurately by this method is one of the advantages of this method, I can say. And not only that one, this method is giving these results, experimental determination of this method giving the values, that values when we collected some of the mass, sucrose mass, concentration of sucrose when it is increasing, osmotic pressure is increasing. That means osmotic pressure is directly proportional to the concentration of the solution. So you understand this method. Berkeley-Hartley method, Hartley's method is an important method, is an advantage method, or you can say it's the best method for the measurement of osmotic pressure. Now, what will happen in this method is why this method is an advantageous one is establishment of equilibrium quickly takes place in this method. That's why it results obtained in a short time interval. That is the advantage of this method. Another one, if this method if you have conducted for the measurement of osmotic pressure pi values, then the concentration of the solution does not change during the determination of osmotic pressure in this one. That means in this method concentration remains the same and there is no strain in manometer and danger of breaking manometer is eliminated. That means you can find the osmotic pressure, that means external pressure using manometer, and the manometer is also not get any kind of strain in this method. That's why it is the best method, we can say. So after that, Van 't Hoff introduced the Van 't Hoff laws of the osmosis. Okay. Now let us see the next one. So these are the points covered in the osmotic pressure. Now we will observe what about the meaning of this determination of boiling point of elevation. This is a picture diagrammatical observation. In this picture we have consisting of boiling tubes, and not only that one, in this picture we are observing a graduated tube. That means a boiling flask is there in this one, in this picture, and the inner tube of this one, this is the boiling flask. Okay, and I'll show you the inner tube is there. This is the inner tube, outer tube. So there are two tubes are there. One is called the graduated tube are present in this. Beckman thermometer we have shown here. This is Beckman thermometer. So T means thermometer, and also hot vapor jacket is there. So that we are showing here in this hot vapor jacket is there. That is also one of the important apparatus in this one. What about this method? This method process. That means this method consisting in heating solution with the vapors of the pure solvent. So vapors of the pure solvent we will use to heat the solution. So for that you can see the picture. In this picture left side we have a tube is there, solvent is getting boiling and the vapors will go into the graduated tube, right? And see the pure solvent is placed in a flask A which is connected to the graduated tube B by means of delivery tube. So this is the delivery tube we are observing in this one. So via that delivery tube only what will happen, this vapors will increase the temperature of the solution. Vapors will be received by the solution or liquid which is present in the graduated tube B. So B is the graduated tube in this one. And now about 5 to 7 ml of pure solvent is also taken in the graduated tube. See B is there, in B we only will take that 5 to 7 ml of solvent. A small hole that here we have shown which H symbol permits its communication with the outer vessel V. V is the outer vessel we can say, and we have given symbol also for this V symbol in the diagram. When a solvent is boiled and its vapors pass into graduated tube. So when we boil the solvent, what will happen? Vapors will definitely go into the graduated tube and vapors gets condensed in B, and the vapors will be condensed, means that will be converted into liquid state. Then after what we will do is the latent heat of condensation raises the temperature of the solvent in B. So B is the tube, graduated tube. In that latent heat of vaporization, the condensation raises the temperature of the solvent. Nothing but latent heat is nothing but the energy enthalpy of that condensation which rises, then the temperature of the solvent definitely increases. So the boiling point will be noticed accordingly. So the solvent B will start boiling. So when B will start boils, when the latent heat of condensation rises the temperature of the solvent in tube B to its boiling point. Okay. Then the steady temperature in the Beckman thermometer we will notice that is called as boiling point of pure solvent. The Beckman thermometer actually very sensitive, 1 by 100 part of the degree temperature also can be noticed using this Beckman thermometer. So that is used to find the boiling point of solution, a solvent. Then after we will add a small quantity of weighed quantity of non-volatile solute into the same tube B and vapors will be collected and the same experiments will be repeated. After that, the solution will start boiling, and a steady temperature will be noticed in that experiment of solution taken. That is boiling point is noticed as T2 degrees Celsius. Then after what will happen? The difference between the boiling points of this solvent and solution, that is T2 minus T1 degrees Celsius, will calculate. That we will call it as the elevation of boiling point or boiling point elevation. So boiling point elevation symbol is delta TB. So in this, the first stage is to determine the boiling point of solvent. The second stage is to add some non-volatile solute into the solvent to make it solution, and that solution boiling point also will be noticed in the Beckman thermometer T2 degrees, and between T2 and T1, T1 will be definitely greater than T1, T2. So T2 is greater than T1. That's why T2 minus T1, the difference will calculate is called as boiling point elevation. Hope you understand what is boiling point of elevation. So boiling point elevation is one, and this osmotic pressure Berkeley-Hartley method is another one. So these are two methods we have discussed in this one. Okay. So this is the diagram, the preparation of the determination of freezing point depression. In this picture, I am showing Beckman thermometer, and there are two stirrers are there outside. There is a freezing mixer is also shown, and what we do is there is a weighed amount of solvent. If you take about 20 grams, it's like an inner freezing tube. So this is the inner freezing tube. Then the solvent in the tube is gently stirred, and the fall of temperature in Beckman thermometer is carefully will be watched here using that. The fall of temperature falls below the freezing point of solvent. What happens? Solvent starts solidifying and the temperature starts rising and becomes steady after some time. This constant temperature is noted in the freezing point of as the freezing point of solvent. So what is that one? I have noticed as freezing point of solvent will be noticed in the Beckman thermometer. The the tube is after that taken out of the freezing mixture, and then a solid solvent is remelted. An accurately weighed quantity, you will take about 0.1 to 0.2 grams of solute will be added to the side tube, that is T. This is nothing but a side tube. Okay. From that we will add so 0.1 to 0.2 grams. Then temperature of the solution again will be noticed like the previous one. That is noticed as T2 degrees Celsius. We'll call that is the temperature freezing point, freezing temperature of the solution. Freezing temperature of the solution. As we know that T1 degrees Celsius after the experiment definitely will be greater than T2 degrees Celsius in this freezing point concept. So when it becomes steady, then thermometer temperature for the second experiment will be noticed as T2 degrees Celsius. First one is T1 degrees Celsius. Now we can easily find the difference between the temperatures, that is delta TF, that will become equals to T1 minus T2 degrees Celsius. So this experiment can be repeated by adding different quantities of solute in several times. Then in that we must know the non-volatile solute amount and also amount of solvent, depression in freezing point, and molar depression constant of the solvent. Then only we can find the molar mass of the non-volatile solute. So if you see this experiment, in this experiment we have to add 20 grams of solvent first. So how much approximately 20 grams of solvent will be taken in the first stage of the experiment. Then after, from this side tube, we can add 0.1 to 0.2 grams of non-volatile solute for the second temperature, the T2 degrees Celsius solution temperature freezing point we can see. So that difference we will call it as the delta TF, that is depression in freezing point of the solution. So hope you understand what is the depression in freezing point experimental determination. Okay. So these are the experimental determinations of the freezing points of the solution and elevation of boiling point and osmotic pressure. Okay. Okay, dear students, hope you have understand what is exactly the osmotic pressure determination method. What is exactly this determination method of this freezing point depression and elevation boiling point. Now we will start doing some important relations, that is nothing but abnormal molar masses, that is abnormal molar masses. See, it's now clear that colligative properties are most important in calculating the molar masses, we have understand. But in some cases, molar mass is determined by the colligative property methods do not agree with the theoretical values. So why this abnormal molar mass scheme is nothing but in some methods this molecular weight is not matching with the calculated one. So experimental value and the theoretical value are not agreeing with each other. There is the fact that molecules in such compounds either dissociates or associates. So molecules in solution may dissociate or associate in solution due to this the molar mass theoretical may not be equals to molar mass experimental. So this kind of situation arises because of that one. We can say there is a fact that molecules such compound dissociate, such colligative properties of solution depend on the number of particles present in the given volume, and the values observed become higher or lower than the calculated values due to the association or dissociation. That means colligative property may gets changed due to this behavior of solute in solution may cause abnormal molar masses. Sweet. So this point, if you observe, molecules in solution may dissociate or associate due to this what will happens, molecular weight determination will not get matched with the calculation value and experimental value. So that's why what happens, colligative property also gets changed. Because of that one, solute behavior in the solution, the molar mass obtained is called as the abnormal molar mass. Okay. Now we will observe exactly what is this situation, abnormal molar mass situation. For various colligative properties, for various colligative properties, we know that what are the colligative properties? Elevation and boiling point, depression and freezing point, and osmotic pressure, etc. We observed that molar mass or molecular mass is inversely proportional to colligative property. Inversely proportional to colligative property. In their mathematical expressions we observed. Or you can also call it as molecular mass is inversely proportional to the number of solute particles. The number of solute particles. Number of solute particles. Now you can observe one thing in this discussion, that is, yeah, association case and dissociation case separately if you discuss, you will understand this point. Okay. Now first we will see what about the association case, molecular association. Like this. What about association? Association means there is a large number of organic substances are there. Generally, they will undergo association in the non-aqueous solvent other than water only, because organic compounds will completely soluble in non-aqueous solvents only. Due to this, what will happen? Two or more molecules of solute dissociates to form bigger molecules. So in this association case, either two or more molecules if you take, they will associate due to some peculiar bonds like hydrogen bonds, hydrogen bonding, assume hydrogen bonding. Then what will happen? The number of particles in solution decreases. When the number of particles decreases, what will happen? Molar mass increases. That implies molar mass or molecular mass increases in such a case. Now that we will see in this picture. For example, if you take acetic acid, for example, if you take acetic acid, you know what is acetic acid? CH3COOH. Actually, this is said to be exists in exist as a dimer in benzene, as a dimer in benzene. And similarly, benzoic acid is there, we have CH5COH. That is also said to be exists as a dimer in benzene. These are the best examples. For example, you take acetic acid, CH3, C, double bond OH. I'll write acetic acid one molecule like this. The second acetic acid molecule will definitely be shown using dot lines hydrogen bonds. Okay, in this way. Now, what we observed in this picture is, the diagram is, the dimerization takes place due to hydrogen bonding. So dot lines indicates that hydrogen bonding in this. So as the number of molecules of acetic acid is now said to be reduced to one half of it, because first we will take two acetic acid molecules, then they will become one molecule. One half of the two is one only. That molar mass of the solute definitely doubles than that theoretical value. So what will happen? Molar mass definitely increases for this type of associations. Next, in case of acetic acid, molar mass actually they have noticed molar mass observed for acetic acid, that is 118, while what is the actual value? The actual value of molar mass from the formula, that in theoretical value, is actually 60 only. You observe almost double, approximately 2 into 2 times this is 2 times this value we have obtained. So definitely we can understand that association of the solute in the solution definitely increases the molar mass. Now, not only this one, we'll discuss about dissociation now. We'll discuss about dissociation. Dissociation of solute. Here what happens, most of the electrolytes like sodium chloride, salts, some acids, bases, definitely they will undergo dissociation. Then molecule breaks into ions. What is the meaning of this one is, molecule breaks into ions, increases the number of particles. That means solute particles number increases. So when the solute particle number increases, what will happen? Solute particle number increases, molar mass decreases, because Because of this one, what will happens? This colligative property increases, molar mass decreases. Therefore, molar mass decreases due to this problem. So in that way, we can understand the relation in this discussion. Okay. Now, first we have told abnormal molar mass. So abnormal molar mass is coming because of the dissociation or association of the solute present in the molecules present in the solution, and that molar mass calculated is not said to be equal to the experimental value. So theoretical value and experimental value both are not said to be same. What is the reason behind because of this dissociation association? Then what will happen? Colligative property changes. Colligative property changes means molar mass changes like delta TB, delta TF, osmotic pressure values and all. Actually, these are the colligative properties and depends on number of solute particles, and that will definitely changes the inversely proportional to molar mass, indicating that colligative property changes or molar mass changes. That was observed in the case of association model. Association is saying that there are two or more molecules if associates, then because of hydrogen bonding, the number of particles in solution decreases, or to obviously what will happens? Molar mass increases. That increase in molar mass we'll call it as abnormal molar mass. For example, you take acetic acid. Acetic acid exists as a dimer in benzene. Benzoic acid also exists as a dimer in benzene. That is for acetic acid experimentally identified as 118 is the molar mass, while the actual molar mass of acetic acid is only from the formula is 60 calculated. So it is 2 times the 118 is 2 times this actual value. It is called as abnormal molar mass. So 118 is the abnormal molar mass of acetic acid because of its association in benzene. The same thing you can observe dissociation. Molecule breaks into its ions, that means number of particles increases, then molar mass definitely decreases due to this case. And in that, you can understand calcium chloride, sodium chloride, many examples are there. For example, you take calcium chloride dissolved in water, each molecule dissociates into 3 ions. So it gives 3 ions. Automatically what happens? One calcium ion and there are 2 chloride ions. So 2 chloride ions are there. 1 calcium ion will come from this one. Due to this, effective number of particles increases. The number of particles increases, then colligative property increases. So colligative property increases means definitely molar mass of this one is decreases. So colligative properties varies inversely proportional to the molar mass. Observed molar mass is found to be abnormally low in this case. So here molar mass is low value, lowered due to colligative property increases in this case. So these all things what we have noticed are very difficult part of the discussion. That means what we believe the colligative properties, that colligative properties are giving the molar mass. Sometimes we may accept, sometimes the values are not said to be in agreement with this. Sometimes the values are not in agreement with the values obtained experimentally. So calculated value and experimental value of the colligative properties are not coming same. When the colligative property is not same, automatically molar mass also changes. Now we will check with the solution for it. What is the remedy for this one is nothing but to make the experimental and this theoretical and experimental values equal, of molar masses equal, we can introduce a concept, or we can introduce a factor constant that is called as Van 't Hoff factor. So that Van 't Hoff factor is telling about the ratio between this whatever the experimental value and theoretical values. That ratio, that constant, if you introduce in every colligative property, Van 't Hoff factor, if you introduce, automatically what will happen? There will be a solution will be found. That means the values what we have obtained from the colligative property will be little bit modified using this Van 't Hoff factor to get a clarity in this molar masses. Okay, let us see that idea about Van 't Hoff factor now. The point is Van 't Hoff factor. Van 't Hoff factor. Actually, in 1886 only this Van 't Hoff factor is introduced, also called as Van 't Hoff's constant. Van 't Hoff's constant, its symbol is I only. Okay. This factor expresses the extent of dissociation association with certain solute undergoing solution. What is the meaning of this Van 't Hoff factor is tells the extent of dissociation, or association which certain solutes undergo in solution. So how can we define? It is defined as the ratio of the observed value of colligative property to the theoretical value of colligative property. So this is the definition. For example, if you want to tell this one in an equation manner, in a simple manner, Van 't Hoff factor I can be written as observed osmotic pressure by normal osmotic pressure. Normal means calculated or theoretical. So I will write theoretical. And we know that this is inversely proportional. This colligative property inversely proportional means in terms of molar masses it will be opposite. That means molar mass theoretical divided by molar mass observed. So this is the ratio. That ratio we can call it as Van 't Hoff factor. So here, what is the theoretical value? Observed molar mass, number of solute particles, or normal molar mass is number of particles dissociated. How we can write it is nothing but in this we can write this is equals to normal number of solute particles. Solute particles, number of solute particles. That means normal number of solute particles divided by number of particles after association or dissociation. Number of particles after association or dissociation. Okay, association or dissociation. You can observe here all these things here. That is nothing but when we are going to introduce this Van 't Hoff factor, when we have found that there is an abnormal molar mass, there is an association or dissociation taken place in the solution due to that solute's behavior. Okay. Now, value of Van 't Hoff factor for solution, the extent of dissociation association, it will be telling in that the extent of dissociation is called as degree of association, degree of dissociation. So, what is the meaning of extent of association? The extent of association is also called as degree of association. Degree of association in solution, that you can write it with the alpha. Okay, or you can write it as any symbol. Degree of association is most important point under the discussion. For example, you take n is the number of particles of A, this is associated into polymerases like this. That means number of moles of solute dissolved, I am taking n, a definite volume of solvent. N is a simple number of molecules associated to form associated molecule. An is associated molecule here. Here, the degree of association I am putting alpha. So, let alpha be the degree of association, then number of associated molecules. Here, what is the number of associated molecules? Number of associated molecules or particles, that will become equals to alpha by n. Number of unassociated molecules, number of unassociated molecules, that will become equals to 1 minus alpha. So, you know that observed osmotic pressure will be due to the actual number of particles present in the solution. But in this juncture of us assuming these two things, associated molecules and unassociated molecules, number of effective molecules in solution can be obtained by summing these two things. Therefore, number of effective moles in solution, I can say this moles only, that is equals to 1 minus alpha plus alpha by n. The above things also I am going to write moles only. Okay. So 1 minus alpha plus alpha by n is the answer. So number of effective moles of solution is nothing but 1 minus alpha plus alpha by n. Therefore, what is Van 't Hoff factor? Van 't Hoff factor is equals to observed number of total number of moles after association. Total number of moles after association divided by number of moles before association. Total number of moles before association. Before association. That can be written as equals to 1 minus alpha plus alpha by n. Now this is called as the Van 't Hoff factor. So divided by total number of moles before association is 1 only, so that you can write it. So knowing the Van 't Hoff factor, what we can do is the value of alpha or degree of association of solute can be calculated. That means knowing the value of Van 't Hoff factor, what we can calculate is we can calculate alpha. If you know the I value, you can calculate the alpha value also. This is about degree of association. Now we will check with the dissociation case. That means a degree of dissociation. Degree of dissociation. Most of the electrolytes actually like acids, bases and salts, generally what they will do is they will undergo dissociation in aqueous solutions. This means molecules breaks into resulting ions forming large number of particles because of dissociation. For example, if you take a generalization like A is a symbol, a substance, then what will happen here is if A dissociates, then how it can be understand, I will tell. Means fraction of this is this degree of dissociation for anything is said to be fraction of the total fraction of the total number of molecules which dissociates that is actually break into simpler molecules. The meaning is nothing but break into simpler molecules. They may be molecules, or you can say they may be fragments like ions, etc. Suppose molecules in electrolyte when dissolved in solvent dissociates into n ions, then alpha is the degree of dissociation. Then you can understand like this A gives rise to N1B plus N2C plus and so on. Then the total number of particles is N1 plus N2 plus N3 and so on equals to small n, assume. This is the thing. Now total number of moles before dissociation is how much? 1. Again I'll write total number of moles before dissociation is equals to 1. But the total number of moles after dissociation we don't know. That can be calculated. That means effective number of molecules, if you take, you can calculate this one. This is a question mark. This can be calculated. So what is the number of effective moles in solution? Number of effective moles in solution is equals to, as we know, after dissociation, before dissociation, total value 1 minus alpha plus n alpha, that is equals to n minus 1 alpha. So I will again write this one clearly, that is equals to 1 plus n minus 1 alpha. So what is this 1 is? 1 is the total number of moles before dissociation. Total number of moles after dissociation we are getting, that is the value 1 minus alpha plus n alpha. Okay, this is the value. So here 1 minus alpha plus n alpha is that value, effective number of moles, and the solution is this one. So total number of effective moles of solution is 1 plus n minus 1 alpha k. This is what we can call it as effective number of moles in the solution is total number of moles after dissociation. Now let us see what is Van 't Hoff factor. Now what is Van 't Hoff factor? Formula. Van 't Hoff factor I is equals to total number of moles after dissociation. Number of moles after dissociation is divided by number of moles before dissociation. Total number of moles before dissociation. So now after dissociation we calculate 1 plus n minus 1 alpha. Before dissociation is 1. So I value is equals to 1 plus n minus 1 alpha. This is a Van 't Hoff factor for dissociation cases. Usually in case of dissociation, what will happen, sir? The Van 't Hoff factor will be greater than 1. Usually I value will be greater than 1 for dissociation. You have to remember this one. For dissociation, what will happen? I value should become greater than 1. That is for association, this will come less than 1. I value will come less than 1 for association. The reason is very clear. For the association, if you take association, we have a formula, that is I is equals to 1. I will put alpha is common, 1 alpha is common, 1 by n minus 1. Then if I write alpha will become equals to I minus 1 divided by 1 plus divided by 1 by n minus 1. Will come. Whereas for the dissociation, the relation of I and alpha is I minus 1 is equals to n minus 1 alpha. For this, what is alpha? Alpha is equals to here 1 only, right? Alpha is equals to I minus 1 by n minus 1 will come. So you observe both the expressions, this alpha for dissociation, the first alpha for association. So here I have calculated in this alpha value for association, here alpha value for dissociation. So whenever I value is greater than 1, then what will happen? That is dissociation. I value is less than 1, then that is called as association. Hope you understand. What is Van 't Hoff factor now? Let us revise what is Van 't Hoff factor. Van 't Hoff factor tells us the extent of dissociation or association in which certain solutes undergo solution, undergoing solution. So it is defined as the ratio of observed value of colligative property to the theoretical value of colligative property. So what is I value given as the formula that I is equals to pi observed by pi theoretical or colligative property observed by colligative property theoretical, which is equals to molar mass theoretical by observed molar mass or number of solute particles, normal number of solute particles by number of particles after association or dissociation. So this is the thing we are writing already here, that is number of particles after dissociation or association. First we can write like this: particles after dissociation or association. Usually before is 1, after is association or dissociation is different. So and this is became equal to that Van 't Hoff factor. So Van 't Hoff factor for any of the molecule we can easily calculate using this one, right? So dear students, we have now discussed about the of the Van 't Hoff factor, and also we discussed about the determination of colligative properties methods in this class. Okay. Hope you understand this session, and we will meet in the next session with the modification of colligative property mathematical expression, including this Van 't Hoff factor. So Van 't Hoff factor included means for every colligative property expression, Van 't Hoff factor is included. That we will see in the next session with the problems. Until have a nice day. Thank you.